ladies and gentlemen, now our guest for the afternoon. We're very honored, Dr. Bacher, having you here. Thanks for making the time. You can take the floor. And we're very pleased that he's making his time to share with us a bit of his life experiences in what he has done and contributed to society in his own way. Thank you, Dr. Bacher.
All right, you asked me to interact. So I'm going to start off. Prof, people who complete a PhD, a doctorate, when they submit their final document papers, how many pages is it generally?
Well, let me tell you, Emeka, how many was yours?
It's about 500 pages.
Yeah.
How
And
many?
500 pages.
well, let me tell you what is Rika's. Rika? About 700. I was quite angry
Oh,
about it.
that's enough. Okay. I want to tell you in all honesty, I've never ever put together a document, a memorandum, a proposal, more than 2 pages. Never in my life. Never. And people who worked with me or for me knew, if they wanted me to consider a project, whatever, if it was more than 2 pages, it went there. And I suppose that's the way I've operated my whole life. I think I've just done things very simply, basically. So what I'm going to try to communicate to you, and I've written down a lot of these points, some of these just one-liners. I think things that were important to me, how I operated, I've never changed, I've never deviated. I think the first thing is that, and all you folk obviously are highly qualified, highly educated, and you're all aspiring to go up the ladder. I can tell you, if you haven't got passion and commitment, you'll never make it. Passion and commitment. I was fortunate, I played cricket for the country, and then for 22 years I was very privileged. I was given an opportunity to administer cricket on a professional basis. And look, I had some tough moments, the Gatting tour, Ansi Cronje, what happened there. But I'll tell you what, I had 22 years, I'll never change it. I promise you, 7 days a week, 12 months a year, I was in my study, thinking, writing, talking to people there, because I love what I was doing. And it's passion and commitment. And if anybody sets out with an objective to make money, you'll never make it. You'll never make it. And I promise you, if you go into the history of fantastic entrepreneurs in South Africa, whether it be Donnie Gordon, who started Liberty Life, or Anton Rupert, or Patrice Motsepe, I promise you 7 days a week, they're thinking, they're working out, they'll have their family, but they're on the ball day in, day out. And I can tell you when I was running cricket, and my family were very supportive, and still supportive, the happiest moment for me was a weekend, early in the morning, to go into my study and take out a note and think this or phone this here. So it's passion and commitment. And if you haven't got that, you're not going to make it, I can tell you that. When I left Transvaal cricket to go nationally, very nice chap took over from him, very nice chap. Golf Thursday afternoon, around 9:30, never made it. Nice chap. He didn't have that drive, that passion, commitment. I think the next point is what I think I would call as decisive leadership, where on an impulse or a moment or an opportunity, whatever, some great leaders come through. They change history, they change the fortune of your company, they change the fortunes of a cricket team. They're decisive leaders. The problem of the country at the moment, at the top, there's no decisive leadership. And to me, the greatest example of people I've met was Nelson Mandela. I'm going to tell you a beautiful story, a true story, to give expression to this visionary man. In 1995, we had the Rugby World Cup here in South Africa, and after 2-3 weeks, out of nowhere, no consultation, he went public. He's going to support the Springbok emblem for the Springbok rugby team. And I can tell you, because at that time, I was pretty familiar with many of the top ANC leaders, there was an outcry. They wanted to hammer him. And the reason being because in apartheid, the Springbok emblem represented a sport that only whites could play for. It's apartheid. Blacks couldn't play for it. Didn't matter who you were. Basil D'Oliveira had to go to England to play cricket for England. And it was apartheid. And the blacks, they couldn't believe what was going on here. And he made the announcement on a Friday morning, big public gathering, and in a second SATV phoned me. They came over, and I'll never forget, 8 o'clock news, the first item, his announcement, and then I come and say, listen, we have huge respect for Mr. Mandela, but we come from a constituency that will not accept it. And the unification is more important than a symbol, so we're not going with it. 9 o'clock the next morning, I'm at home, I get a phone call. It's Mr. Mandela, President Mandela. He says to me, Ali, you and I have been friends for a long time. I was at Robben Island. He says, what are you doing on Monday? Come have lunch with me. So I took 2 board members and we went to Union Buildings. And it was the day before his birthday. He took out some wine, he doesn't drink. I don't know what he was talking about. Then after lunch he took us out into the garden there and he sat down and he said the following. You know why I support the Springbok emblem? He said, why? He says, because he understands how important rugby is to the Afrikaner. And he understands and recognizes how important the Springbok emblem is to them. And because of their support for me as the first black president of this country, I'm going to support the emblem. Now, can you answer that? On the Saturday of the final, the visionary, the late Steve Schwetty, was a good friend of mine. He tells me that about 11 o'clock in the morning he gets a phone call from President Mandela. Bring a number 6 rugby jersey to Ellis Park. So Steve said to him, what do you want it for? Just bring it. At 2:30, I'm told there's a knock on the rugby team's change room, and a bodyguard says to the manager, Borne Duplessis, can the president come into the change room? And he walks in with the rugby jersey, the Springbok jersey, the number 6. And the chaps tell me in that change room they were going to win that cup for him. And just to follow up there, I'm told that a few weeks later in Cape Town, the hierarchy of the ANC, they called him into a room like this, and they were going to lambaste him for coming out with this big public announcement to support the Springbok emblem. I'm told the meeting took 15 minutes, and that was it. And the extraordinary part is that in 2015, nobody says a word. No black, no, nobody. And all the rest of the teams are Proteas. So I think that's visionary, it's decisive leadership, and he was an extraordinary person. You know, you people I know come from organizations where organograms are important. Structures. I used to throw them away. I had a simple philosophy. People make things happen. And if you've got quality people with you, you're going to make it happen. And it's said that the Cricket World Cup in 2003 was a great success. And if I did one thing right, I chose and selected around me executive people who were specialists in their field. And I can tell you, if you think I only write a meme on one page, they'll tell you the meetings with me lasted 20 minutes, 15 minutes. They only came to me with problems. So it's important, it's quality people. They make things happen. And I want to tell you, if you pay them peanuts, you'll get monkeys. And every financial person that I worked with, who was in charge of bonuses, year in, year out, because I had some fantastic people with me. They had a tough time for me. Look after your people because that's so important. Diverge responsibility to people who have excellent. People used to say to me that I ran cricket on my own. Absolute rubbish. You people know Mervyn King, Justice Mervyn King, Michael Katz, Edwin Nathan, Joe Pominski. These have been close friends of mine for decades. Quality people, top people, and I promise you, many occasions I'd be on the phone to them because I had confidence in them that they'd give me the best input, expertise on certain subjects, and I would listen to them majority of cases. So for those of you who are obviously moving into areas of senior responsibility, gather around you people that you can consult and gain the benefit of their experience. Return all calls. Now, when I departed from the Cricket World Cup, and cricket after 22 years of it, it was my decision, I ended up with the Wits Foundation. I didn't know what to do, but you know, I've got a doctorate there, my children have graduated there. I thought for 3 years I'll go and help them. And in essence, it's a fundraising job. Difficult. In this country, as opposed to America, the graduates from the universities, they don't care a damn about their alma mater. Don't care a damn. So what I decided was I'd look at who's who. There's a publication, the most prominent South Africans. I think it's an annual edition. And I got some of the foundation to identify 100 former Wits graduates. And I was going to, over a 3-year period, go to each of them individually. And I'd asked my PA to make an appointment. Well, after 2 months, I took over phoning. Because once I heard it was fundraising or whatever, no, he's overseas, he's in a board meeting, there's a crisis. So I started phoning myself. So I got an appointment, and I want to identify the people I saw. But this would be the normal scenario. You get an appointment in about 2-3 weeks' time, and you go there and you make a presentation briefly. You know, you're an engineer, we need a new library, whatever. Very nice, very pleasant. And you'd end up and said, when can you give me a response? You've got to be very careful because you can't impose yourself, you know. You can't force people to give money to you. So I said, no, look, we'll come back to you in 2 weeks' time. I promise you, 90% of them never came back to me. So you've got to be careful and say, you'd phone again. And the PA would say, look, he's in Gibraltar, he's in Iraq, whatever. Phone in 2 weeks' time. You phone in 2 weeks' time, he's in a board meeting. And then ultimately, you know, you'd send a nice email. No response. All right. Let me tell you the difference. One day, Louisa Nonsa, who was the vice chancellor, I said to him one day, he said, you know, Anglo-American have given Wits 50 million rand over a certain period. Let's not ask him money. Let's take a collage. Go to Tony Trahart, he was the CEO, and we just want to thank him. I'm not asking for money, because once he hears I'm phoning, no. So I make the appointment, and I say, look, it's not fundraising, we've got something we want to give to him. So I'll never forget, the appointment was for the Tuesday. And the Monday afternoon, the PA phones me and said, look, I'm sorry, Dr. Bacher, we've got to postpone the appointment because he's got to see the Minister of Mineral Affairs in Cape Town tomorrow. I said, that's fine. He wants to speak to you personally. I said, no, that's not necessary. No, he's insisting. So he gets on the phone, and really for 10 minutes he apologizes profusely. And then afternoon he phones the Vice Chancellor himself to apologize profusely. So we set up another appointment. And we went to Anglo-American head office, and I told him the story I've told you. How most CEOs act with chairman of big public company. And he said to me, you know what, Ali? He said, I used to work for Harry Oppenheimer. And I learned from him. And he said, Harry Oppenheimer, when he had important calls to make, he didn't get the secretary to do it, he phoned himself. And that's the difference. So, chaps, return calls. I'm obsessive about it. I'll tell you, I'll show you my diary at the end of this talk. It's just common decency. If somebody phones you, phone them back. And if you can't give money or the answer's no, say it, no problem. But I just think it's a height of bad manners when you don't return calls. Reply to all correspondence. Now, nobody would remember there was a famous cricket broadcaster, radio broadcaster called Charles Fortune. He was a legend. I mean, he's one of the greats of all time. We became very friendly. And when I went into full-time cricket administration, he taught me the following, because I can tell you, folk, the Mike Gatting tour, the blacks wanted to kill me. I can tell you that. Hansi Cronje, the Afrikaner, wanted to kill me. And I got letters you cannot believe. And Charles Fortune taught me the following. When you got tough letters, bad letters, aggressive letters, reply. And there was a standard answer. Dear X, I acknowledge with thanks your correspondence date there. I note the contents. I thank you for your interest in South African cricket. Full stop. And everybody who worked for me, I taught in that. So if you've lost the World Cup semi-final and you get hammered by the press or letters, that was it. And you know, sometimes people phone me and they left their phone number at the bottom, and I'd phone them. And you could sense on the other side, they couldn't believe it. I mean, and you know what? Sometimes you won them over. So that's simple. Never break your word. Never. In my early days as a cricket administrator, I was almost solely responsible for sponsorships. And there were some bad deals I did, bad. And you'd come home and you'd think about it, and you'd go for a run in the morning, and you'd say, crikey, hey, you undersold this one. It's a bad deal. But if you go back on your word, your credibility and the credibility of your organization will be destroyed. Never ever break your word. And I was very strong on that. I'll never forget going to Coca-Cola. It was the first sponsorship for under-19 cricket. There was a chap called Henny Fillion, lovely man, and he caught me in coffee, talking. He says, Ali, how much do you want? And I said, 250,000 rand over 3 years. And he got up and shook my hand and says, we've got a deal. And I walked out and I said, hey, you've undersold this thing. In the case of disputes, I had a father-in-law, passed away in 1990, Tusi, a great bloke. He taught me one thing, settle out of court. Don't go to court. The only people who are the beneficiaries are the lawyers. And it's an interesting story. Only once in my life have I ended up in court. It was a Friday, and the reason being that Vodacom in the early 90s, they took away all the sports. And they did a deal with our cricket team, gave them phones, a bit of money, and that was it. And then out of nowhere, about 1995, MTM arrived on the scene. The CEO was a chap, Bob Chaffee, American from an architect, and they wanted to get into big sports. So they came to me, and they gave us 144 million rand over 5 years. It was astronomical. And of that 144 million, 50 million went for disadvantaged cricket. We couldn't say no. So we had a problem here that our team was with Vodacom phones, and then the controlling body was with MTN. But we had a contract with the players, and they had to abide by whatever. So we went to court in town one day, Friday, and then on the Saturday, Johan Rupert phoned me. They were big shareholders at Vodacom. We had a meeting on Sunday, and we resolved it amicably. Cricket went with MTN, and rugby and golf went with Vodacom. And it's interesting that about 2 years later, I went to a funeral at West Park Cemetery, and the judge was at this funeral. And he came up to say hello to me, and I thought I'd push it. I said, you remember that case? Of course. I said, look, can you tell me how you were ruled? He ruled it out for we were on the case. But that's the only time I've ever been into court. Don't lie. You'll get found out. Don't ever lie. And I've only lied once in the media, and did I get clobbered? There was a game, we were playing India at the Wonder Stadium, it was a night game, and Brian McMillan was given out, and as he walked up to the change room, there was some altercation. There was a couple of people from Asia, words went, a bat went, whatever, and it got round. And it came to our attention, and we played it down as though nothing had happened. And the next morning I got a phone call from chap Iqbal Khan, who writes for the Natal Mercury. Everybody knew about it, and I denied it. Boy, you should have seen the Star that day, the back page. And I deserved it, and don't ever lie, because you're going to get found out. And there's a story in today's papers where it's alleged that Harun Lorgat sent an MSS to the coach, was a colour chap, night chap, Russell Domingo, instructing him to add an additional thing. And Harun Lorgat is now denying it, and if he's lying, he will be found out. He will be found out, and he'll face the repercussions of that. Small gestures, not to be underestimated. Hey, I'm chairman of Right to Care. We're the biggest NGO in this country on HIV/AIDS. Our income's about 700 million rand a year. We're funded by the Global Fund USAID. We're the only NGO in this country in Sierra Leone, the Ebola crisis. The government asked how to go there. And 4 people worked round the clock in December to make it happen. And I used my experience in cricket. Flowers a weekend away, and we send in 4 of our people who work round the clock to the Beverly Hills, just as a show of appreciation. One's the CEO, there's a middle manager, a lady, Sheila Stanford, she lives in Pretoria. She wrote back a letter to the board. You cannot believe what it meant to her, to show that you're appreciated. And you worked round the clock, and people recognize it. So small gestures are never to be underestimated. Right, the last point I just want to say, and then I'm going to say something. You know, all of us here are advantaged because we all have had good educations and we're fortunate. But you know, the majority of people don't have this. And I was so strong when I was running South African cricket, particularly for white people who, you know, were top administrators, to mentor black people, to give them the advantage, the benefit of your experience advantage. And the classic example was that when we had unification of South African cricket, early 90s, key to that was a young African cricketer called Kaya Majola, not Joel Majola, his brother, Kaya. And he was passionate about cricket. He was a very good cricketer, never made it because he couldn't play for South Africa. And the key thing that brought us together was development, and he was going to come up from Eastern Cape and work with me on development. And he worked for me for 10 years. Tragically, in 2000, he died of cancer. Unbelievable chap, never complained, worked to his last day. But you know, when he arrived, he knew nothing. He knew nothing. And we had an association. My door was open, and almost every day he'd walk into my room and we'd talk about development. And whatever I'd been able to learn, benefit of my experience, opportunity down the years, I imparted to him. And that's a classic case. A chap started with nothing, but he loved cricket. I tell you, 5 years later, he ran South Africa, developed magnificently. Hardly ever came to me. Sponsors loved him. And I think all of us have that responsibility, transference of skills and mentoring. And my last point is that things don't happen. You've got to make them happen. You've got to be proactive. So those are my few thoughts. They're very simple. I've never changed. I've never deviated. My meetings are short. My friends at Alexander Force will tell you this here. We used to have cricket board meetings 2 days. I mean, madness. Subtly, without anybody knowing, they came down to 1 day. Then they ended up a Saturday morning. I'm with Right to Care, and it's the best board I think I've ever served with. We have 3 accountants, there's a commercial lawyer, it's run like a business. Peter Moy, chairman of Vodacom's on our board. Boy, they've taught me. And they've lunchtime, it's got to be finished. The executive, we want a summary, point form. We don't want to go for the 40 pages here. Nonsense. We want a summary, and if you want a proposal, don't come with idle thoughts. Have a clear presentation. Bang, bang, bang. We can make a decision. Right. Open discussion.
Any questions, ladies and gentlemen? Well, I think I want to ask.
What I want to show you here, you know, everybody's with computers. I got children. One's a lawyer, one's an architect. So I said, listen, I get a few diaries. Can I give you a diary? Dad, who uses diaries today? I said, you don't use a diary? No, man, computers. Since 1988, 87, my Bible is my diary. I've kept every one of them. And I will just pass it around here. I've kept every one. This is what I've said it. And before I go to sleep at night, even now, I have a look at the calls that I haven't returned. Next day, 1, 2, 3, 4, phone. And once I wake up in the morning, I tick, tick, tick. Do this here. So I don't hopefully miss a thing. Just pass this around. And we have ticked off, you see, and I've got them since 1986, 87. I've never changed. Right, Prof.
Frans, you want to ask a question?
Yes, I wanted to ask a question around how well does decisive leadership sits next to inclusive leadership?
Oh, you know, this story, you know. I'll give you another example. Better one than Mandela. In the early 90s, you know, unbanning the ANC, new people were coming to the fore, the newspapers, and it was conveyed to everybody. You know, those chaps at the top, they can't make those decisions anymore. It's got to start at the bottom. You know, floors, factories, floors. Bang, bang, and come up, here. We had once a transformation exercise. I went to the late Frederick van Zyl Slabbert, Caxton MD, got R1 million, financed around the country. So we got 11 provinces in cricket. So we had for 2 days in each province, primary schools cricket, high schools cricket, universities, technicons, amateur cricket, professional, umpires, board members, sponsored, bang, bang, bang. So you can imagine you go for 2 days, and then you go times 11 times. I mean, it's a chamors. It's a chamors.
The problem is it becomes groupthink.
Well, not groupthink. I mean, let me tell you a better story than Mandela. Right. We now have unification of South African cricket. And we go to England and we're back in the world of cricket, but there's no talk about playing international cricket. We just want to be members of the family. So Pakistan are due to tour India, and there's Agro, they don't go. We and a few of my board members are in India for the first time ever to meet our counterparts. And whilst we're there, the tour's cancelled. The Indians come to us, listen, next week, we want you here. What? Next week? Yeah, next week. So, we stop over in Nairobi, and I'm sharing a room with the late Percy Song. So he says to me, Ali, hey, it's going too fast, isn't it? We're just back in world cricket now, we're going to India. There'll be chaos in South Africa. The ANC will kill us. I said, hold on. So I phoned Steve. Cape Town. I said, Steve, listen, the Congress Party in India, they want us to come, this is happening, that. Percy is very nervous. Let me speak to him. I don't know what he said to Percy's son, but the phone went down and we went to India. And he never consulted anybody in the ANC. That was it. So I don't know.
Make things happen.
Hey?
You've just got to make things
I
happen.
don't know things happen. They're not always right with you. Collective viewpoints, I don't know.
There's a question here. Mecca.
Yeah, thank you for your lecture. I kind of like
No, not lecture.
Well, you are used to using this word lecture or your talk or whatever.
I don't know.
There are one or two things I think is important for maybe you to, lighten us more. You said never break your word.
Never, but
Even
if it's a bad deal,
so
I'm
don't
stronger
know.
than I
Yes,
never.
Yes. I'm coming there again. I don't know whether this is specific with corporate governance or general politics or general things you do in life. Sometime in the 90s, so, or maybe somewhere in 2000, I can't remember specifically. There's one guy called Butrus Ghali. He was the United Nations Secretary General.
Yeah.
So he did the first term, and he wanted to go for the second term, and the Americans refused. And that's how he didn't get it. So in the process, he started arguing with the Americans when he realized that he's not going to get the second term. So he said it became a public debate between him and the Americans. So he said that the Americans promised him that they were going to allow him to go for the second, support him to go for the second time. Then he said, the Americans said, yes, but we changed our mind. So Butrus Ghali said that it is only a fool that changes his mind. And the Americans say it is only a fool that doesn't change his mind. So we don't know.
It's a small world.
Yeah, the point is that
Everything gets out.
Yes, I know.
You break your word, you go to the next sponsor. They've heard about you. Hey, we don't deal that like.
Yeah.
It's so important to keep your word, man. Don't. And often you make a bad deal. It happens. Don't move the goalposts.
So you're almost saying don't be philosophical about it. It's a hard fact. Take it as it comes.
Take it come. You make a deal. You shake hands. Don't the next day phone and say, by the way, by the way, we agreed on 2 million rand. I think in retrospect it's now 3.5 million rand. You can't do that. And it spreads. It gets out. With modern technology, when I started playing cricket, we went to England. There were 2 or 3 cricket writers. That was it. 2 or 3 cricket writers. And you could get away with murder. You could. Today you can't, man. You can't. Tabi and Becky, he came to my 50th birthday. Intellectual. It's his dying day. It's going to be HIV/AIDS. It doesn't matter all the good he did. The world knows about it. Hey, you've got to be very careful today. It spreads, boy, like wildfire.
So, yeah.
The point is, it is the mind of the stronger person that matters, not that of the weaker person. The stronger person can change his mind and it become right, and the weaker person cannot change his mind. And that might be applicable.
Look, you can change your viewpoint, but if you do a deal, you've reached agreement, you've shaken hands. That's it, man. It's a bad deal. You've got to live with it.
Ali, thank you very much for such a refreshing talking, this theoretical academic.
I'll tell you what, I don't understand 10% of what these blokes were talking about. I don't understand.
Share something of your experience in dealing with the entrepreneur.
Well, look, it's a tragedy. In life, you've got to have some luck sometimes. He had no luck. He was caught. In India, betting, gambling is illegal. It's underground. It's underground. And the call it the cops, the police there, they were investigating one of the key mafia ringleaders of the syndicate. And to tap into his phone, they had to get, like you've got to get permission from the courts, which they got. So they got into this bloke's phone, and who was he speaking to? Let's see. But to give you an indication of how big it is, you know, we had the King Commission, and I had to go public about what I knew. I didn't have facts, but what had been informed to me. And before the World Cup in 2003, Lord Paul Condon, who was head of Scotland Yard, retired, and then he became head of the ICC Protectorate on this issue. And I got a phone call about 2 months before the World Cup that he wants to come see me. I mean, my heart got a bit like this. You know, what's going on? And he came to my house. And he said to me, Dr. Bacher, I just want you to tell, whatever you said at the King Commission, we have now proved is correct, one. And then he indicated to me the magnitude of betting in India. This is 2003. He said when India played Pakistan in a one-day game in India, $1 billion changes hands. And I remember him saying to me, if Australia play India, it's $250 million. Still happening today, guaranteed. So he was unlucky and he got found out. Bad luck.
Any other questions there? That's it.
Mine is just thanking Dr. Bacher for the point on replying to all correspondence. It happened to me last year. I'd just been on Kaya FM and I got thousands of calls, emails, and I got to a point where I wasn't answering. And one person kept writing emails, I didn't answer. Then I realized that it was a benchmark. I was five, the London CEO. She wanted to buy like 1,000 books or something like that.
And then you answered.
It was too late because
Oh yeah, where's my diary? Oh, is it going round?
Yeah.
Let's pass it around. That's me.
it was too late.
Yes, Simon?
Thank you very much, Doctor. I'm very happy, and extremely excited when you said we should make things happen.
They don't just happen, you've got to make them happen.
We have to make them happen. That brings me to what I was told when I was a young boy, that there are three types of people. One, those who make things to happen. Two, those who wait for things to happen. And three, those who wonder how things are happening. So my little question to you is, what advice will you give to people who wait for things to happen and those who wonder how things are happening?
I don't think they got that passion commitment then. They're just rolling over. I mean, I love cricket so much and I'm so passionate about it. And you know, the media are lazy, generally speaking. You know, they come at a certain time, they know when they get clock off, they've got to get a story out. I can tell you when I was running cricket, many a time at 7 o'clock in the morning, I'd go for a run, I had an idea, a good story, would promote cricket, give benefit to the sponsors. I'd phone the media. They didn't have to phone me. At 7 in the morning, we'd have a front page story, making things happen. It was my job. I'm not a financial man. My job there was to promote and market and again, PR. And the media was important. So I didn't wait for them to come to me. If I had something that was honest, it's got to be honest. And don't try to fool anybody. I'd phone them on my own. 7 o'clock in the morning, wake them up.
Any last question?
Just a comment
Yes, dude.
related to that. A little cliche, you can lead, you can follow, or you can be left behind.
Let me give you my last story. I ran a World Cup in 2003. I didn't know how to use a computer. I didn't know how to send, I promise you, send an SMS. I had no phones tapped in here. Phone numbers. You know, about 900. Nothing. And I had a bodyguard who was my driver. So I used to go from Joburg to Cape Town, get off the phone, there are 20 messages. And I used to get my pad, message one, phone blog, phone number, phone this, phone two, tick off there. But you know what? When you talk to people, they can't say there's a virus, eh? They can't say the system's broken down. And I tell you what, in many instances, I kept people on their toes because I was phoning day in, day out. What's happening, are you there, are you there? And the last thing that happened, we had a logistic director, I don't know what the hell he did. I don't know what he did. He had graphs, I don't know what he had.
He did graphs and PowerPoints.
You never admit me to your campus, so don't worry.
We don't do graphs and PowerPoints.
So we had a warm-up game at Fort Head University. What did play cricket to Alice? So they had a security problem fencing, 5,000 rand to fix it up. So I called this bloke. I said, "Listen, just sort it out. It's a simple request." So this oak gets on the computer, and he's got this proposal, and he sends it to 42 different people, and he gets 42 different replies. So I called him. I stopped where we were based. Anybody that was full-time sending emails to each other. Stop it. I mean, there were people here next to each other sending each other bloody emails. Talk to each other, man. Be rest assured, I'm not enrolling at you.
Dr. Bacher, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
I think there are people who would like to talk to you more after
Yeah.
the session.
And look,
But we really appreciate it.
here's 140 pages you can have.
And what I believe Storm will do, is put it up on the web. So thank you very much. But here's just a small gift.
All right,
Saying
brother.
thank you very much.
Pleasure.
But you don't need to solve this puzzle in our presence. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Just the last comment. We're ready today in publishing. Maybe I must not stand this side also. It's not just our faculty that's presented publications. Amongst ourselves, the team at Da Vinci, we've put together a coffee table book called Towards Synergy, and we've done it in conjunction with the renowned wildlife photographer Lokutsa. And we put a book together on leadership principles reflected in nature, not rejected. Leadership principles reflected in nature. I think it's great. We took all his winning photographs and we gave titles to the photographs, which is business and leadership related. So we would, for example, say, learning how to take the first step is important. So there are frames and titles, and then there's a description of what the photographs say, what was the context. So we hope that we will all appreciate that we are learning also from nature, and we are pleased that we could do this collaboration with Lokutsa. And the book is available from Da Vinci. If you wish to order it, you can talk to Storm or Sushi, or you can simply go to our website. But it's about leadership principles reflected in nature, and we think it's a great gift for people, not just in the corporate world, but for family members. I think it's a great gift for anybody who is interested in understanding the link between us as humans and us and animals. So I just thought I wanted to share that. That's available from Da Vinci. Thank you very much for being here today. Thanks for joining us. To our Francois, our PhD student. I really think you are in a very good space. I'm glad that you are standing back and saying, maybe I mustn't go forward yet. And I always want to say, pull that lens back, widen the lens, take more in before you go forward. And if there are people, and I think there are many around here, please make those linkages, take them all with you back home and keep them on your radar. And I really wish you luck with your journey going forward. Dr. Bacher, once again, thank you very much. Thanks for being associated with us. We really appreciate that. And please let's have something to enjoy out there. See you again next month. Thanks a lot.